So my name is Gabriella Coleman. I'm an anthropologist currently based at Harvard University, and for the last 20 years I've been studying, researching, and writing on the ethics and politics of computer hacking. My current interest in cybersecurity, I think, really boils down to looking at the human element of cybersecurity along a few different angles. So one project of mine has looked at the history of hacktivism and the tactic of the hack and leak, where hackers will break into a digital system, extract data, publicly release it, often to get public attention on the material. And I'm interested in the evolution of the technique. It initially was a technique used primarily by hacktivists, but eventually nation states and ransomware groups started to use it. So that's one element. Another area has to do with the ways in which computer hackers who used to be part of an underground tradition, who are breaking into systems illegally, how they transition to become credible experts in cybersecurity. So those are the sort of two domains of my research. So the top 3 points of the talk I'll be giving on the hack and leak are the following. First of all, I'm interested in how the hack and leak tangibly happened. I think currently a lot of people think that the hack and leak emerged simply because hackers can hack and because there's infrastructural conditions. I'm going to show otherwise, that it was actually very hard for hackers to kind of come up with this technique. I think a second point that I'm really interested in has to do with the sources of the hack and leak. So sometimes they come from hacktivists, sometimes from ransomware groups, sometimes from nation states. And I'm interested in how journalists, for example, deal with the source of the material. So that's another kind of element of my talk. And the final one is this. What I find really interesting about this technique is currently it has been possible to identify the source. We know when it comes from a hacktivist, we know when it comes from a ransomware group, and we know when it comes from a nation state actor. I think in the future, what I call the fog of hacking will become thicker, where the source is going to be harder to identify. And I think there's already some good examples of this, like the shadow brokers, which we don't really know who is behind them. And so I'm interested in thinking about what we will do to prepare for this thicker fog of hacking. So in the mainstream cyber debates, I think there actually has been a growing recognition of socio-technical factors in cybersecurity. And I think we just have to keep pushing that envelope. And then I think another element, which is truly tough, although there has been some good research around this, is that I think understanding how different groups actually and sociologically operate, whether it's, again, a hacktivist group, like Anonymous, or a ransomware group, is really, really, really important. And there's huge challenges, especially with sort of criminal organizations. It's not like they're gonna give you easy access, right? And of course, some researchers have worked around this using leaks, which is the topic I'm gonna talk about. So with, for example, the Conti ransomware group, there's a book coming out, and there really is a deep sociological understanding of how the group operates due to these leaks. And I think that is really an important element that has to be sort of centralized and emphasized in cybersecurity. In 5 years' time, I think we don't know what we're going to be talking about, but I think that's an important point, is that how can we be prepared for the surprises that will invariably arise? And how do we not get stuck with older paradigms and see emerging paradigms right as they're first bubbling? I think really that is one of the most important challenges that will happen in 5 years and will continue to happen, especially since the pace of technological development is so fast. Of course, AI is going to play a big role in both defense and offense, and that is already, I think, quite known, but there will be, the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. And it's the unknown unknowns, I think, that we have to be better prepared for. I think it's really wonderful that Lancaster is running events like Beyond Cyber that really bring in different types of academics and stakeholders. I am an anthropologist, and oftentimes we're not necessarily included in traditional cyber debates. And I think whether it is the question of cyber or other fields, silos get in the way of producing knowledge and see new things. I mean, this is really a core point in the history of science. We often do get stuck in our paradigms. So how do you get unstuck out of the paradigms? And there's various methods, but diversity of thought, of viewpoints, of seeing different diversity of thought and viewpoints and different starting points and endpoints is one way to get shaken a little bit out of the silos that invariably happen in any field. Academic institutions like Lancaster, I think, play a very important role in producing forms of knowledge that I think are a little bit harder to produce in the industry. We have the freedom to explore very different topics, and we also have the time to really go and drill very deep into them. I think the trick is how you transfer that knowledge to different sectors. The Beyond Cyber series aims to bring very different types of stakeholders together, and it was clear that after my presentation, based on the panel discussion and the questions, that indeed, for example, what I presented on wasn't necessarily universally known, and I was not sure about that. There are cybersecurity professionals. It's a good reminder that even when there's sort of different individuals, professionals, and institutions have deep expertise in a topic, there's always more to learn. I also feel the same, that when I present on certain topics to different audiences, I gain sort of new knowledge and perspectives that feeds back directly into my work. So Beyond Cyber brings very different types of stakeholders together. As someone who uses deep empirical but also very qualitative methods in a field that is oriented towards technical issues, I think it's a good reminder that these sorts of qualitative methods still have an important place in the domain of cybersecurity.